Hi everyone, Amelia Koiken here, buyer's agent at Melia Property. I help busy professionals, families, rural Aussies, and visionary women purchase property in southeast Queensland with confidence. So if you're out there looking for property at the moment, you will know that it is incredibly busy and it is incredibly competitive. For this reason, you want to be able to get your basic due diligence done really quick and before you go and look at properties. You do not want to be wasting your time waiting in line, driving around from property to property, looking at places that are never going to be suitable for your needs. So, I'm going to show you some quick checks that I do on every single place that I look at. And these are going to be looking at council mapping. I look at the property reports and also the flooding. So most councils will have a flood map, and you'll also be able to download a report for each property. So what I'm going to show you is Brisbane City Council, but it's going to be pretty similar for the councils, any council in Southeast Queensland. I will put all of the links that you might need down in the description. But just something to note that anything on a council website is going to be a bit clunky to use. So I definitely suggest getting your head around it, having a practice, and just getting used to how it all works before you actually have to check these properties and you're under a time pressure. Right, so let's get started. I've just got a property here, random property that I found on realestate.com, 29 Saxon Street in Acacia Ridge. Now, what I'm going to do is open up a new tab and I'm going to go to the Brisbane City Council City Plan. What I'm going to do now is type in the address, Saxon. So it'll come up there pretty quickly, but just a little tip for everyone. Say I was to keep on typing and put in the actual full street name, see, it says no matches found. Very confusing, but if I take it back to just the abbreviation of street, it comes up. So just something to note, the number of times I have typed an address in there and it says no matches found. It is so frustrating. Okay, so here's our property highlighted. First thing I'm going to do is check the zoning. So I'm going to click over here on the right hand side. And I'll zoom out so we can have a bit of a better look. So I myself know that this light pink color is low density. Other colors that I'm interested in seeing might be this slightly darker pink, which is LMR2, which stands for low to medium density residential. Tongue twister. And that's up to 2 stories. You can also come across up to 3 stories, so it'll be LMR 2 to 3. They're mostly the ones that I look for. You will be able to get up a key and have a look at what all the zonings are. But I like to see this light pink color or this slightly darker sort of peachy color there. Okay, so big tick there, that's perfect. The next one, I will untick that, otherwise it gets really confusing. Next one, I'm going to go to overlays and drop down. A couple of ones that you might need to look at are biodiversity and bushfire. Now, I know this place is in the middle of suburbia, so I'm not too worried about it. If you are looking at a bigger block, possibly a vacant block, I would check those 2 overlays. Just gives you an idea of, say, like building parcels and the risk that you might come across with bushfire. And so I won't check those for this particular property. The next one that is pretty useful is extractive resources. Now, that one I would definitely check if you're looking at Lockyer Valley, Ipswich, even out to, say, your Moreton Bay area, looking at Samford sort of region. I would check this for areas where they've been where there has been mining in the past, which is going to make the ground unsteady, basically, and not great for building on. So priority here would be flood. That's a really important one. So at the moment, I've got Brisbane River flood checked, and you can see that it does come up on the property. It's only on this front corner, and if I zoom out, I can show you the different colors that do come up. And the different colors here show you the probability, basically, of the property flooding. So the darker the color, the higher the probability. So we will note that, but we will look at the flood report for this property. So that'll give us a bit more info. So I'm going to click on creek and waterway flooding. So that doesn't seem to be an issue. You can see that there is a creek running through there. Not really a problem. Overland flow is going to be the next one. And have a look at that. See how it comes up right through the property. So if the creek is down here, it's going to be running down this direction towards the creek. So there is already an existing house here, and I'm looking at this in terms of investment purposes. So I'm not too concerned about the overland flow. If you were looking at this from, say, a knockdown rebuild, even possibly a development point of view, this can affect what you are able to do on the property, and it can affect the cost once you get into building and earthworks and that kind of thing. Now, knowing that there is an overland flow path on this property, when I go and have a look at this property in person, I'm going to be checking out what drainage is there currently. Is there evidence of like significant water flow through that side of the property? And basically, is the back of the property going to flood there? You know, in incidences of heavy rain. I have been out to places where tenants have told me that they've had to sandbag the back door because there just isn't enough drainage at the rear of the property. The water pools here, there's nowhere for it to go. And I mean, that's really annoying, one, for the tenants. And two, I mean, that's going to do some serious damage down the track to the property. There may already be damage to the property, and just a good one to keep an eye out for. So there's your overland flow. Some other ones you might need to look at are heritage, this pre-1911 buildings. If you are worried that you have a Federation house, that's going to be pretty restricted on what you can do in terms of renovation and building, especially if you want to knock it down, that's a no-go. Now, down here, there's not too many that I will look at. Transport noise corridor, possibly if you know that the place is nearby a very busy road, say a main road or a highway. But that gives you a really good idea of what's going on in this place. I'm just looking at this super basic. So one more thing that I like to check is the contours. So if you click on boundaries and labels to drop that down, and then click contours, zoom out a little bit so it shows you how that's going to go. If I turn off property labels, that's also makes it a bit easier. So, like I thought, the property is running downhill towards the road. These lines go in 1 meter intervals. So if this is 14, then you know that this next one is 13. Right there. So there's a 1 meter drop front to back. Sorry, back to front of this property. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing, but it's not a huge drop. But I like the fact that it runs towards the road. Makes it a lot easier in terms of drainage, because you can divert your water straight to the road. Right, okay, enough on that. So my next quest will be to come over here On the left-hand side, see View Property Lot Report there. I'm going to click on that. Now, I guarantee you, if you show this property to a town planner, they are going to have this report. If you already got it downloaded and ready to go for them, they'll love for it because you just shaved a couple of minutes off the time. That's going to take its sweet time downloading. But this property lot report is going to show you basically what overlays are relevant to this property and how the council is going to interpret those overlays. That is honestly taking its sweet time. Unable to. Right, that's great. Awesome. Why not? So, anyway, that's worked. Finally. 6 hours later. Okay, so we've finally got the property lot report up and going. Again, this is just going to show you the official property details. Address, lot number, plan, all the essentials. One thing I do usually double check is the title area. It is not unusual for this number to not match up with what the real estate agent is showing, and I'm not sure why, but always good to double check that one. Okay, so just to give you an idea of what this lot report shows, we've got the zoning, so low density residential, which is that light pink color, and on the right hand side and on the right hand side here is basically how the council is going to interpret that. A bit of description on like what that zone is and where to find more information on it. Sometimes it's how the council is going to interpret that. Just depends on what it is. So then we scroll down and we come to the overlays that are going to be relevant to this particular property. Now, a lot of these will come up for basically every single property, almost every single property in the council. So not a huge issue to worry about, and it's good to know these things. So these air zone ones, distance from the airport, air navigation, this within 6K, max intensity of light. So that's to do with the fact that it's, within that small radius to an airport. Doesn't affect too much apart from, this light sources and also the reflectiveness of the roofing material that you choose. If it's an existing house, it's not going to affect you too much. Community purposes, critical infrastructure, dwelling house character, yep, and flood overlay. So we saw that already on the mapping. It doesn't give you too much information other than the overlays that are relevant to this property. So at least you can have a scan through this document and see if there's anything that stands out that is a bit unusual or might affect your plans down the track if you are looking at this from a development point of view. Now, we're going to have a look at the Brisbane City Council Floodwise map. It'll pop up with these terms and conditions, which we will just click that. Different types of flooding, yes, thank you. All right, so again, I already typed it in there, so I'm just going to be lazy and click that. There's your little search box. Click on it when it pops up. Okay, so interesting. This is showing us a little bit of a different version, a little bit of a different story to what the council mapping was showing. Let's get this up again because this is classic. Classic council. Where is it? Flood. Brisbane River. They just love to make things confusing. Seriously. Right. Okay. So that is only really covering the front of the property. When we have a look at this one, it covers the full property, even the ones behind it, all the way up to the street above it. So this dotted line, the dotted white and red patch here, that is overland flow. So looking over here on the right, you can see what is relevant to this property basically. So river flooding, low likelihood. flooding, unlikely. Storm tide flooding, unlikely. Overland flow, likely. Okay, good to know. So next one I'm going to do is click on this blue button, Technical Floodwise Property Report. That's so much quicker. Thank you. So this document is going to show you more in-depth information to do with flooding on this property. So scroll down, see in this yellow box, this property has no flood levels. So keep reading. Brisbane City Council has not assigned flood level information to this property, however, it may be affected by one or more flood or property development flags. The property may have 0.2% AEP flood level, which will appear on the flood planning information table if applicable. Okay, so got no overlays shown on it here. So from this, we can understand that in a 1 in 100 flood event, this property has a 0.2% chance of flooding, is what we understand from what we've just read. Okay, so it is very, very unlikely, but it is not impossible. Just something to be aware of. Scrolling down, it'll show you, so these are the minimum and maximum ground levels. So this is the elevation of the property. And this will show you where the existing floor level is, so 15.7. Right, scrolling down. So this table will show you the likelihood of the flooding at different percentages. So we can see all of these up here are not applicable. And then we come down to 0.2, which is at, and this will show you the level that it will flood to, 13.1. So if we scroll back up here and we see that the minimum ground level is 13, so what we can gather from that is that there is a, okay, let's get this straight, a 0.2% chance in a 1 in 100 year event of this property flooding 10 centimeters. Okay, just to get our heads around it. So down another page and we get to the overland flow information. We did know that that was applicable. Coastal hazard, we're nowhere near the sea, so that's perfectly fine. Property development flags. Important if you're looking at this from a development point of view, even a renovation or a knockdown rebuild point of view. So there we have it. In short, I would go and have a look at this property. Like I had said, what I would definitely keep in mind when I'm going to have a look at this place is the path of that overland flow and how that is possibly going to affect the building. Is there any mitigation for that water flow, and like what's there now? And if there's nothing, like how much is that going to cost to put in, and what damage is potentially there already to the house? Okay, so that's my super quick, possibly I could have done this a lot quicker, but I was explaining things. So that's my due diligence. Like I said, try and have a few practice runs. Get used to using these websites. They can be annoying. They can be temperamental. So fun stuff.